What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Marquee on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, we've got Hayden.
Hello.
We've got Josh returning for the first time in a while.
How is
Hello.
it going?
We've got Tyler.
Hello.
We've got my jukebox co-captain, Nick.
I have no impression to do for the intro, so you guys are spared this time.
And as part of his farewell tour, we've got Jacob.
What's up, y'all?
And this is basically our last word on 2022 podcast, where pretty much anything that we have left to say about the year that was will be covered here. Starting with just general thoughts on 2022 in film. Jacob, I'll start with you. How did you feel about the year as a whole?
Well, Mike, I gotta say, this is a solid year for both blockbusters and art house movies. The blockbusters I saw in the theaters were, for the most part, very entertaining, like Top Gun Maverick. Like, that was a prime candidate for my favorite movie, actually. It's quite up there. And Avatar: The Way of Water was a lot of fun, too. I enjoyed that. So was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The Batman sort of thing. You know, those movies really were, like, the best of... Oh, and also Nope, that was great too. But I saw a lot of great experimental films as well in the art house circuit, like Marcel the Shell with Shoes On,
Ooh,
Everything Everywhere,
one.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Movies that were certainly challenging, like Tar and The Banshees of Inisherin. Movies that you weren't quite sure. The movies that really sort of surprised you with how the sort of impact they had on you. It was overall a very rewarding year to really go back to the cinema for me, even more so than in 2021. So yeah, overall, I rate this a solid year.
Nice. Josh, what about you?
Well, I'm going to admit I didn't get to see a wider range of movies that were generally well received and even reviled this year. Like, I'm going to be honest, I am that guy. I haven't seen Nope yet, but I have seen a couple of scenes in it that make me think it might be my favorite Jordan Peele movie. Like, just the scene in particular is that bit with I won't say it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, because it really is, in my opinion, one of the best scenes of the year. But it's the scene with Emerald and OJ, and there's a horse, and she's on a bike. Just that little exchange, along with the music by Michael Abels, is just, it gave me chills and told me, okay, I need to watch this movie. And I haven't seen Top Gun. In fairness, I haven't seen the first one either, which sounds like blasphemy.
It's not.
But, the movies that I have seen, I'm genuinely happy to say that for the most part, all of them were genuinely great experiences in a good way and in a bad way. And I only two movies this year that, as of this recording, I can genuinely say were either bad or disappointing in hindsight. And Heller gave me a movie that I would even consider rivaling West Side Story as my favorite movie of all time, or at the very least, a very close second.
I am very excited to hear more about that later, but Nick, I want to go to you next, since you are pretty much our genre expert. I use that term loosely, but do you think 2022 was like the year for horror?
Oh, 100%. Like most of the movies I saw in the theater either were horror or action movies or something that I would just heavily recommend to people nonstop. I mean, I was basically in and out of the theater a good chunk of this year, and the large majority of the time I came out going, yeah, that was absolutely amazing. And even streaming services, like they were just absolutely killing it this year, whether it was Shudder, Disney Plus, or Netflix. Like I basically just was spoiled this year in terms of horror movies. There's my worst picks, which I'll get to in a minute, but like even those, they don't rival how bad the late 2000s early 2010s were for horror, but like considering that the last few years for horror movies have been absolutely amazing, you know, this is just one of those years that I can't help but go, yeah, I'm glad I saw what I saw in the theater. There's stuff I obviously missed. I haven't seen Bullet Train yet. I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick yet, but it's on my list. I probably will pull a double feature of that one and the first one. Haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's on my list too. And especially blasphemous, I have not seen The Northman yet, but
You would probably love that.
I'm still low-key kind of trying to wash my mouth out. Not that it was a bad movie. I shouldn't say wash my mouth out from, but like I was not as big into The Lighthouse as everybody else was. It was not my thing. Like I can respect it as a movie, but I couldn't help but go, man, this is kind of dull. And this is somebody who absolutely loved The Witch.
You weren't fond of Eggers' Lobster?
May Neptune strike ye dead, Nick.
I would rather have Art the Clown strike me dead more than a minute.
Willem Dafoe as the ye old sea captain from The Simpsons. Come on now.
I love Willem Dafoe, but the movie just wasn't my thing. I just kind of found it too slow paced for its own good, and you know that I just need something to kind of like cleanse my palate with one Robert Eggers. But I'll watch The Northman at some point.
The Northman's very different.
Yeah, it's more epic drama, but it does have a sort of dread to it that is kind of similar to his other films.
And I can understand that, like just slight real quick, but like the way that you feel about The Lighthouse is how I feel about Midsummer. So like I totally get it.
The A24 effect.
Not really, but I get where Josh is coming from. I can respect that. Although I am one of those people that loves Hereditary and Midsummer.
Same.
Colette was so robbed in that of the Oscar.
Most of the actors in my best of list will be robbed. So let's just leave that conversation at that.
Ooh.
Tyler, I'm going to turn to you next. What are your general thoughts on 2022 for better and or for worse?
Never asked me to bet on what movie will be a hit or not. I was terrible this year. I walked in going, oh yeah, Top Gun 2. No way this is going to be a hit. Boy, was I off. And it's like, well, okay, it's been like 15 years since Avatar came out. That's actually still not going to be a hit. Just assume everything's going to be a hit when I say it's going to be a flop. Overall, I'd say it's kind of a mixed year. There were some films I genuinely were excited for that turned out really good. There were some films that I was excited for that were very disappointing. There was some things that I was not even sure what to even think about, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to land on negative. If you liked history films, boy, is that a mixed bag of a year. Mixed bag in general. And also, don't ask me for freaking tickets to win money. Please, God, no.
So I guess your local news station will not be calling you to be their next meteorologist.
Nope, not meteorologist, not mathematician, not Mega Millions winner, not runner-up at the Lost Festival.
All right, Hayden, the floor is yours. your general thoughts on 2022 in film?
2022 was pretty good. I have to say, there's been a lot of different types of movies that found their way into my favorite spot. And it's quite the hodgepodge of general positivity that I really like this year in terms of movies. I saw a lot of really, really good ones, and it pained me to have to narrow it down. So I'm not even gonna try. Just let's do this thing.
Yeah. So my overall thoughts are this year was the year of maximalism. Like it's a year of like just big movies that actually turned out successful both critically and commercially. You know, we got everything from Everything Everywhere All at Once to Top Gun Maverick, of course, Avatar: The Way of Water. And who knew that Teluga had a booming a booming audience in the West with RRR, a movie that I've only seen once on Z5, but kind of jealous that like everyone else I know has seen it in theaters multiple times.
I pray to God that movie gets released in theaters around the time of the Oscars.
Same. I would love to catch a screening of that someday.
Yeah, I'd love for that to be my first Indian like Bollywood movie.
Well, this one's Tollywood, but yeah.
Oh, Tollywood, is that what it's called?
Yeah. So
my bad.
India has more than one regional film industry.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither. I gotta venture more into international cinema.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Same. But I am glad though that it seems like audiences are really starting to broaden their horizons in terms of their movie tastes. Like, yeah, you look at the top 10 highest grossing films, that's still a collection of remakes, reboots, sequels, etc.
The big franchise stuff.
Of course. But then you get like the smaller movies, and again, as we talked about earlier, horror having like an absolute banner year.
Yeah.
And
one of my picks, I'm super excited to talk about, just having watched one of them again recently, back to back with its first one. Oof.
Yeah, no, don't worry. We will definitely talk about that one. But before we get there, I want to start off with I don't like doing worst of lists anymore. And this year, either because I got lucky or I purposely avoided the dog shit, I don't really have enough movies to compile a worst list. But I have a couple titles that I've soured on pretty heavily. But Tyler, I'm going to start with you because I know there's two movies that you were kind of chomping at the bit to discuss.
Oh boy, was I. There were two films that stand out to me. One that's just generally disappointing, and one that I just can't even put into words what a mess this thing was. And that was, of course, the Andrew Dominic directed Marilyn Monroe movie Blonde. Oof. What a movie this was. Now, to start off, this movie had a lot of problems from the get-go, and I think, was it in the beginning, people were complaining that Anna de Armas wasn't, Marilyn Monroe and her accents coming through, and that was a problem with some people before the movie came out. But boy, is that the movie's least of its problems. It's more, this is a movie about a person that is quite well respected and liked, made by someone who aggressively doesn't like the person. And not like in an artistic, oh, the person was bad, but maybe did good. It's like, no, this Andrew Dominic does not like Marilyn Monroe. He has done interviews where he just straight up says, "Oh, this movie is just about a woman who killed herself, and she was just a harlot." Don't we all? Yeah, this is an amazing interview where this journalist, I want to say it was like from Wired, just
Jesus
asked,
Christ.
and he was saying like, she was just a whore. Who cares about her? That's an actual phrase that she says in the interview, and I imagine the journalist just like going, "Oh, no, what is this interview?"
Yeah, that's a guy I trust to tell her story.
Well, let's start off with the material is probably not the best starting point because Blonde is a book from the 2000s that was a Joyce Carol Oates novel that was explicitly fictional. It was never mentioned to be a historical book, which is good because it gets weirdly conspiratorial about how she died and also weird stuff about having like multiple kids and abortions, which did not happen in real life. And this movie just kind of took all that except for the conspiratorial stuff and just put it in there. But there's not really a disclaimer like, oh, this is based on a novel. Like, nah. This is same as ever was, based on a true story. Except
I just want to say real quick, if you want to have a wild ride, just look at some of Joyce Carol Oates's hot takes on some of these movies released this year on her Twitter.
Yeah,
that is a trip. That is
I looked at that once actually. It's a very much a roller coaster of, oh, that's an opinion. I think wasn't Gore Vidal once actually put her down by saying there's not a more depressing phrase in the English language than Joyce Carol Oates. Can't really disagree with that. Yeah. Actually, this is not even the first adaptation of Blonde, if you can believe it. There was one in the early 2000s. I think it was a TV movie. I can't
with
imagine
Poppy Montgomery.
Yup, with Poppy Montgomery. I can't imagine that was good, but then again, maybe it'd actually be better than this because this movie makes me think way differently of the director because I actually like Andrew Dominic's previous works. He did a movie about Jesse James called The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. Amazing movie. It's a fantastic, depiction on how you view a person that's supposed to be the bad guy in a story. So, that movie's great. Also pretty historically accurate for a Jesse James movie. So I was unreasonably excited for this because of that pedigree. Shouldn't have been that excited. God, I don't even know where to start from the fact that the movies, it was rated X, rated MA. What's
NC-17? Yeah,
NC-17. That's it. Which at first I didn't quite know why. Maybe it's because there's nudity every 3 minutes. Whatever. No, eventually kind of hits you in the face like halfway through the movie. I think around the 30-minute mark. Why this is the NC-17? The movie has a POV abortion scene with the baby. That's a thing that happens in this movie. And also and this is the weird thing. This movie is almost, and I don't think Andrew Dominic's pro-life, but the movie almost comes off like it's pro-life. Like the fetus looks like an actual baby, despite it being so early in the womb. And then that baby starts like talking to Marilyn Monroe later on, like as a ghost, like being mad at her that she aborted the baby. This is the scene in the movie.
That's like some PT shit.
It does. It's like the ghost baby's literally going like, "Are you gonna kill me again?" It's like, what? It's voiced by the actress who plays younger Marilyn Monroe. Like, I do not understand what artistic decision they're going with here, but this is the sort of thing you see in like Christian pro-life movies. And Andrew Dominic's been kind of dismissive about saying it's a pro-life movie, but he's not giving explanations for why this is in the movie. This wasn't even in the book. The movie's also just a misery fest. We were talking earlier about movies by Darren Aronofsky, like Requiem for a Dream. This movie's like that. It's just misery porn. Watch Marilyn Monroe get beaten and raped and almost murdered and beaten again and just mocked by people over and over and over again for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, yet you're gonna there's probably gonna be some weird sect of the population that's like, oh, it's this deep, introspective, meaningful. It's like, no, I do not need to subject myself to that.
Yeah,
That
the
just
thing is,
does not, no.
I
Just
mean,
no.
to put it bluntly, by the end, when she actually kills herself, it almost comes off like a positive, like, oh, thank God that's over.
The fuck?
Yeah, and this is a very, very complicated woman that did a lot of good things. Like, she actually was married to Arthur Miller and actually did a lot of fighting for civil rights in the anti-communist era, and also made her own film studio and also helped World War II soldiers post-war. None of that is in the movie at all. It is just infantilized woman just being abused over and over again and being pretty. It is the most misogynistic thing I think I've seen all year, which is mind-boggling.
So basically, the wrong director adapting the wrong material.
Yeah, I don't know who would adapt this well, but clearly not a guy like Andrew Dominic. Like, all I can think of was from that interview was, this is like if you made a movie about Audrey Hepburn and all you talked about was starving in World War II and then dies of cancer, and then you skip literally everything else. It's like, what you're gonna, and those are the artistic choices. Like, there's a bit where she's having a threesome and then the bed turns into a waterfall because she was in the movie Niagara, so it's Niagara now. This is an artistic choice.
Now I understand why Impression Blend gave this movie a negative review. Now I'm like, I definitely don't. I didn't really have that much interest in seeing it, but now I'm like, avoid.
The interest I did have was because of Ana de Armas, but
and she's good. She's actually really good, and I can understand why she's getting nominated for quite a few awards at the moment. But she can't make this work. Nobody can make this work. This is unworkable. This is almost unfilmable. The way they've made it.
Colin Farrell said recently that it made him cry.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. The people that are like, oh, it's such an inspiring story about abuse of a victim, giving her a voice. It's like, no, this is about as far removed from that. Like, in the year where everyone was kind of getting up in arms about how true crime doesn't give women voices, this is like if you just made a movie about the victims of a serial killer and it's just looping the murder over and over again. Like, there's nothing to get out of this that's giving a person a voice. You actually you made her voiceless. And I'm not even the biggest Marilyn Monroe fan. I like her as an actress and then as a person, but she's never been my favorite. But I feel so bad for her. In fact, the weirdest story about the making of this movie is that Ana de Armas apparently said she did like a seance to ask for Marilyn Monroe's permission to do the movie, and then, like she said, she showed up and haunted the set. And if that happened, I'm pretty sure it's because she was pissed, not because she was happy.
Guess she took advice from Jim Carrey.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like, I have nothing nice to say about this movie except for Ana de Armas. You're a really good actress. Please get a better agent. Don't do movies like this.
Didn't Kenneth Branagh make a Marilyn Monroe movie called My Week with Marilyn?
Yes, he did.
Did you see that?
I did. It was okay. It was actually about I don't want to say about 20 movies about Marilyn Monroe from only a few years after she died, through stuff like the Michelle Williams My Week with Marilyn to this. Like, some of those are trash. Some of them are fine. This is probably the most disgusting of them all.
Almost reminds me of that Sharon Tate movie with Lindsay Lohan that came out a few years ago.
That was
The Haunting of
Duff
Sharon Tate.
Yeah, the Hilary Duff movie, and that was.
Oh, sorry, Hilary Duff. Yeah,
that movie was. Well, actually, no. I'd say this is even more tasteless than that. But that one is in the ballpark of, this was a terrible idea. I don't know what you were thinking. We are probably worse off for it existing.
God, this is depressing. I was genuinely looking forward to it because of Anna, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one takeaway is, I guess, you can put an NC-17 movie on Netflix, and I guess you can be enough of a hit that it's not a problem now. I guess Showgirl is pretty ticked off. It's 15 years too early.
Different places.
Mike, would you be okay if I continue the depression session with my worst picks? Or Tyler, do you have one
I
more
have
you
one
want to
more.
add?
One more
Okay,
that's less
yeah.
depressing, and it's funny because it's about a topic that's supposed to be depressing.
Oh,
The other,
Jesus.
the other to pick for me was the new version of All Quiet on the Western Front.
Huh.
Oh,
I'll be
boy.
honest. As a worst pick, this one kind of surprised me. But you're the history buff, so
Well,
I assume you have a little bit more stake in this.
it's history, but also just a literary criticism because I love the book All Quiet on the Western Front. I had to read that in like middle school. It's one of my favorite books. It holds up remarkably well. That's and then the original adaptation from 1930, one of the first ever Best Picture winners, that holds up also remarkably well. 1979 TV movie starring the kid from the Waltons. That was actually pretty good too. There's only been 2 adaptations, and both of them were made by either Americans or I think British people made the second one. This one was going to be a German production. So you know what? When I read that, I was kind of okay with that. Like, okay, a German version about the famous German story, and they get to tell their story. That sounds good. That would, in theory, be good, but I guess the director Edwin Berger didn't much care for the book, or at least felt he could improve upon it. Because to call this an adaptation is to be very charitable, and this is going to be one of my big criticisms. In the year 2022, it turned out apparently critics have not read All Quiet on the Western Front because every review I read, and most of them are positive, were like, it was a very accurate book, very accurate. Like, what are you talking about? This movie cut out half the book plot, added in 3 subplots that are not from the book that clash terribly with the book, and the ending, beginning, middle, the section, everything's changed except for character names. And half the characters aren't even in the book that are from the movie. So adaptation wise, this is like a D minus, but that's fine. That's fine. That can be adaptations. Doesn't have to mean it's a bad movie. But this is a movie that feels like a diet version of 1917.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of from the trailer. I will say I did see the original All Quiet on the Western Front in school, actually, and I'm going to assume that that's one of the best movies to ever win Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah, actually, I would say that very confidently. Even though it's a movie from 1930, so acting was kind of just starting to become commonplace. With talkies, it still holds up very well. And this will not. This feels like I said, 1917 was very blatantly an inspiration. The long cut takes, the extreme violence and gore, which that's fine, but it just feels less creative when it's not Roger Deakins doing your cinematography. And this movie has similar problems that 1917 has, but on a far worse scale because, if you thought the characterization in 1917 was a little bit on the flatter side, well, the characters, I can only tell you who they are because of the names. They're all kind of indisposable, just beyond like vague descriptions of that one's been around for a while. That one's the new one. Except that doesn't mean much because the movie starts halfway through where the book starts, because the book starts in 1914 and this starts in like 1916, 1917 for no apparent reason. Like, you don't even get a roll call of the characters. We just, we're at a battle. So you'll figure out who these people are eventually because they maybe will matter. And the major changes, they added a subplot about the end of World War I, featuring the historical figure Matthias Ansberger, who negotiated the Treaty of Versailles, which that's all well and good. But that doesn't have anything to do with an adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front. That's to put it long-windedly, a book about just the misery of warfare, how adventure turns into misery, nationalhood leads to death and destruction, and we are never the same again, and we shot it all to pieces, a direct quote from the book. So having a peace treaty scene where you're just having generals argue about, this should end the war. No, you should do this. You should do this. At odds with the book, adds about half an hour longer screen time than it needs. This movie is like 2 hours, 50 minutes. It did not need to be that long. And good Lord, just there's so many scenes. It just here's a scene of terrible violence, but it doesn't have much of a meaning to it because you don't know the characters because
They're just there. And the movie also weirdly even, and this is bizarre, it kind of sort of makes it like the French are the problem in the end of the war, not Germany or anything like that. It almost feels like this is kind of slightly stabbed in the back myth, like the myth that the Nazis eventually believed post-war that they would have won the war if they hadn't been stabbed in the back by their own people. Yeah, I don't know who wrote the screenplay, but there's a lot of iffy choices that you can be, if you're a historian, you can read it as not what the book was going for at all. And as a last note, the ending of the movie is absolutely just miserably bad. Like, spoilers for a book from 1928, but everyone's dead by the end of the book, and the last paragraph is just a character finding the main character dead and going, he seemed happy in the last few moments of his life. That's how the book ends. The original 1930 film, he's reaching for like a butterfly that reminds him of his childhood. He gets shot by a sniper. Okay. 79 film, sketching a bird because he likes to sketch things. He gets distracted and gets shot by a sniper. Okay. These are all kind of similar. And this one, he gets brutally stabbed to death by a Frenchman, apparently 2 seconds before the war ends. Because we got to add the heightened drama of it's not longer like a month before the war ends, it's 2 seconds. Which is also ripping off a real person who died at the end of the war, but that was an American, so that's a real stick in my craw. Overall, it's a decent enough war movie, but it just feels like it's taking inspiration from better World War I movies and not improving on anything that those movies did, and just ignoring the source material to the point where you just call it 1918. You would get the same thing out of it if it was just called anything but All Quiet on the Western Front, which is the most disappointing thing. I would have thought a German director and writer could add certain, ideas and cultural understandings into it, and especially with trench warfare being a thing again because of Ukraine, this was maybe a good time to have this. But no, they fumbled it pretty damn hard, and I don't see why so many people were just jazzed about it. Like I see it nominated for Best Foreign Film this year, and I'm really hoping that the Argentina 1985 movie wins at the Oscars. Not this, please.
I still kind of want to check it out just out of curiosity, but and yeah, it is mostly because it's up for like all of the best foreign/international film categories. But
it was submitted to those awards before the movie came out because the studio was very confident in this. Yeah, they submitted it to all these award shows before it was actually fully released.
You can do that?
Yeah, you can do that. Like the shortlist, anyway.
More you know.
Yeah, and that confidence was greatly misplaced.
Yeah, the submission process for foreign film is interesting, to say the least. But speaking of foreign films, Nick, there's a movie I know that you want to talk about.
Warning. I'm going to issue a warning to everybody. This is going to go to places that are very, very, very uncomfortable. But that's because this movie really just wants to go to that territory. I was just going to kind of ease everybody in with before we started recording, my two worst movies of this year, and my best description of them is, one's my obvious pick. That's, objectively, this movie's crap. What more can I add to the conversation that hasn't already been said that you can't pull up on any horror critic's YouTube channel? And then the other one, I personally, it's my overrated pick, but if I could go ahead and say it's my worst movie of the year, I would more than gladly say The Sadness is my worst movie of 2022. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this movie, but it's a Canadian directed Taiwanese horror movie about basically, it takes the rage zombies from 28 Days Later, but instead of making it a virus that just makes you kill people, well, it makes you do that, but it makes you act on your worst possible instincts. And it's about this couple trying to find each other across Taiwan, which would be an interesting concept for a movie in, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, the quote post-COVID age. But my thing with The Sadness, mine is more of a personal reason why I hate it, because it's an interview that the director did online, as well as a reference to my worst movie of all time that it decides to make. I don't really want to bring the title of my worst movie of all time up in this podcast, just because I don't want to be the guy responsible for somebody, getting the curiosity bug and looking this up. Mike knows which movie this is.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah.
You mentioned it before we recorded the Halloween Ends one.
Okay. Yeah. Then Jacob knows too. Because, The Sadness has the gall to reference this fucking movie. I know I'm being vague mentioning, Mike, should I tear the Band-Aid off and say what fucking movie it is, or should I not? It's your show. I'm not stepping on any toes.
You know what? I say go for it, because most people know to steer clear of it.
Have any of you guys heard of the movie A Serbian Film?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think most.
Oh my god!
Most people on Reddit have heard of the Serbian film.
Okay, so if you haven't or haven't even seen, don't get the curiosity bug and watch it, for the love of God. I'm a 28-year-old man and I still have fucking nightmares about that goddamn movie.
I'm about to go throw up right now.
The Sadness has the gall to outright make a direct reference to that movie.
How direct?
All I will say is eye socket penetration.
Oh my God.
Oh, they actually do that. Okay,
and for me, it's not so much the idea of violence happening. One of my movies on my best list, it literally is a movie that is being discussed because it's so violent. And some of you, just from that hint alone, might know which movie it is. But when I was thinking about watching that movie I'm referring to, everybody was telling me, like, oh, you shouldn't watch it because it's violent. And it's like, my issue is not violence. My issue is when you're just outright showing sexual assault for just being edgy and trying to, quote, say something. And for me, it's like, that's not entertaining. Like, and if you're feeling the need to use that as a fucking crutch, that's not entertaining. That's just fucking disgusting. And I say the director, I'm calling out the director, I should say, excuse me. I'm calling out the director on this because he had the nerve to call A Serbian Film, quote, a powerful movie, and that people only get hung up on two scenes rather than taking the, quote, deeper meaning into account, and that The Sadness has similar issues going against it. And I'm like, fuck you. No, it does not have anything to say. Yeah, The Sadness might, but outright saying that piece of shit has anything to fucking say other than being disgusting edgelord trash for people on 4chan, and no. That is why I am not a fan of The Sadness, is that I just find it just uses extreme violence as a crutch rather than trying to make something that's genuinely entertaining and worth watching. It's not a movie I'm into, yet for some reason this movie has a fucking 89% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Some things just don't make sense.
Take what you will about it. I mean, you guys were saying that, NC-17 movies, well, this isn't an NC-17 movie, but they can technically find an audience now due to streaming services. The Sadness isn't a movie I'd recommend to people. Like, I was initially going like, watch it, kind of judge what you might think of it. But after seeing that interview with that director, comparing The Sadness to that movie and outright making a reference to it, no, this movie's crap. I fucking hate it. My obvious pick, however, and I'll
Bill,
just
real quick, I just want to say one thing. Would you say it would be accurate to say, don't give in to the sadness?
I was just kind of trying to find
I get you guys are trying to get me to laugh. Like, I'm not gonna lie, having to bring up a Serbian film in any conversation is not fucking fun. And like, I kind of start going like, no, dear God, don't go there.
I worked with a guy from Serbia once. I assure you, not everyone in that country is like, yeah, this is our national movie.
I get what you mean. I'm just saying that I find that kind of shit and horror extremely bothersome, and that's why I don't like the torture porn shtick. I don't go out of my way to be like, I'm not one of those gatekeeping horror fans that's like, I need to see every disgusting thing put on screen. Like that's just not my thing. So to get on to, I guess, a happier thing, but something that still annoys the shit out of me on some level,
at least it ain't
would be my obvious worst movie of the year pick, and that's going to go to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot.
I forgot that was.
What can I add to the conversation about this? Blah, blah, blah. It's a poor copycat of the 2018 Halloween movie without any of the proper character development or doing anything interesting with the social commentary. Blah, blah, blah. Bad gore effects. Blah, blah, blah. Dumb characters. Blah, blah, blah. Bad gun violence commentary. It's just not a good movie. Like, Texas Chainsaw has not had a good movie in that series since Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and that was almost 40 years ago. I really feel like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies needs to go by the way of the Terminator movies. It just needs to stop and go away for a while. Don't do another movie. Let Leatherface's chainsaw rest. Don't hide it in a wall, which the gas would evaporate, eventually causing the chainsaw to, I don't know, not work. But no. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 on Netflix. Don't watch it, even for a curiosity piece. It's just not good.
I'm disappointed that apparently Fede Alvarez wrote the story.
Oh, really?
My thing with Fede Alvarez is Don't Breathe 2. No, I was not the biggest Evil Dead remake fan, but like I've kind of softened towards that movie over time. But you know, Don't Breathe is the only good movie this guy has ever made, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm kind of bummed he's going the way of the director of The Descent, Neil Marshall. His career trajectory. That's all I'm just gonna leave that as.
Apparently, he's trying to get a remake of Labyrinth off the ground.
Oh God,
Fede Alvarez or Neil?
Fede Alvarez, yeah.
I don't know how to feel about that, but I did like his takes on horror movies in the 101 Best Scariest Moments in Horror on Shudder. But anybody else got any worse picks that they want to go on about? I'm still kind of recovering from talking about my worst pick.
I'm just going to say, throw in. Go, Tyler, you can go ahead.
I was going to add that I forgot that Texas Chainsaw remake came out this year. And, it's actually probably gotten worse now with the bizarre gun violence things that after all the things that happened in Texas this year. Oh, what a year to have that movie come out.
Well, let's just add some irony to laugh. The last two Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies have not even been shot in Texas.
Was it not even?
Though, I do have.
No, they were both shot in Bulgaria.
I do have a fun fact though, because the filmmaker is from Texas. Apparently, the director of the movie, I accidentally had it on Rennie Harlan because that's what Fede Alvarez reminds me of. That sounds like a spicy take. His name is David Blue Garcia, and he's apparently a filmmaker who went to school, or as far as I know, he was born and raised in Harlingen, Texas. And that's actually not that far from El Paso. And
that just kind of makes this movie more insulting.
And he apparently, like, because the downside is they can't shoot things in Texas even if they wanted to because of the film incentives here in Texas. Basically, the higher ups that run the state, wink, wink, they basically view Hollywood as kind of like promoting like sex and drugs and violence and pornography and all that. So they say if you want to film in the Lone Star State, you're gonna have to shell out the money.
Wow.
That's also why Blue Beetle is not shooting in El Paso primarily.
Aw.
It makes sense, but it's still stupid.
No,
so.
I completely agree. Fuck those higher ups and
No,
Wow.
no Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie should ever be shot outside of Texas. That's just my take.
Bulgaria, that is like insult to injury. Another country.
Anyways, who else has a worst movie of the year pick that they want to go on about? I mean, I know a lot of people will pick Halloween Ends, but I mean, for
I
me,
didn't think it was that bad.
given Kills
Yeah.
exists, given Resurrection exists, it's not the worst Halloween movie. Don't give me that shit.
Halloween
you know.
6, I say is kind of worse.
Yeah, Uncle Dad Michael Myers.
Uncle
enough
Dad.
said.
Yeah, that was.
Is the producer's cut any better?
It's not.
Well, the
Like,
producer cut is the
at
Uncle
most,
Dad version.
It has bits that are worth watching. It has some kills that are pretty cool, but it does nothing for me. It's just a crappy Halloween movie. Yeah, Ends isn't great, but I just kind of go with that movie. It just kind of is what it is.
One
I'm
version
just
has
here for
more
the ride.
Loomis, one has more Michael. They both kind of suck in different ways.
Yeah, I'm going to segue into that, Nick, and say I finally figured out what the problem is with Halloween Ends. Like, if they had just killed Michael in Halloween 2018 and have Halloween Ends be the second one, that would just fix everything for me, because I do like the idea that this movie presents about how evil reincarnates. You know, I just don't like it being like this Corey kid, him being the big baddie when Michael's still at large. Just like, no.
You know what? Fair, but at the same time, much like Leatherface, I do think it is time to let Michael rest for a while.
Yeah,
Don't bring him back. Don't bring him back. Bring back Jason. Bring back Freddy. Bring back some fresh blood, because like a lot of the slashers that are going to be on my list, oh my god, this is going to be some fun shit to talk about. So who's got a worse pick though? I want to hear some more rather than just me and Tyler's.
so
Josh, I definitely want to know which one you thought was like the worst.
So I'm going to start this off because I do have two, but I want to backpedal on an opinion I gave on a podcast.
Ooh.
Because the last podcast that I was on was the Doctor Strange and Moon Knight one. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I was a little bit more critical of Multiverse of Madness than most, because everybody was saying, and this is like pure Sam Raimi, this and that. And I went in thinking, well, it's a lot more diet and restrained. There were bits where I thought he could have gone full Raimi madness, and that he just didn't because of the Marvel formula. And I was positive, but not that much so. And I kind of felt a little bit cold towards it in the podcast upon reflection. And lo and behold, it's probably one of the Phase 4 movies I've ended up rewatching the most. And now I think I could say I genuinely really love it. It's got some problems, but I mean, the script, in my opinion, although there are some decisions I disagree with, I'm taking it as it was. And you know what? I think it's a lot of fun. And I'll be honest, who would have thought in 2022 we would have had Sam Raimi raking in millions at the box office again?
Hell yeah.
That's great.
The unfortunate thing about that movie is that it came out very close to Everywhere, Everything All at Once. So you had two multiverse movies.
Yeah.
You're gonna falter pretty bad with comparison.
Yeah, compared to that, like the big twist, like in the dimension Doctor Strange is in, is that red means go and green means stop, and people eat pizza like as little balls. Which, come on, compared to Everything All at Once.
But Pizza Papa always gets paid.
There's nothing
And-
as good as the hot dog world.
But here's an interesting story about my experience with Doctor Strange. I actually came across the spoiler for that, but not really. Like, I saw a YouTube video with the title. It just said the words black. The only words I saw were black kills Doctor Strange. I was like, oh shit. So, and then I tried to get it off my screen, and I thought it meant Black Panther kills Doctor Strange.
I remember you mentioned that.
No, it was Black Bolt. Apparently a character from Inhumans.
The one human being that actually remembered that show. And that was kind of amusing. Like, hey, remember that show? No,
Well,
you don't. Not anymore.
Well, my other two movies, one of them actually is related to Marvel, and I'm considering it my disappointing movie. Because I'll admit, when I first watched it, I really liked Thor: Love and Thunder. I genuinely thought it was fun, and I went into it hearing all the negative reactions, and I thought, this is it? This is the worst movie everybody said was coming out right now? The heartfelt moments genuinely got to me, and every time Christian Bale was on screen, the movie elevated like crazy.
Yeah.
The few times that there were genuinely creative visuals, like in my opinion, the last battle, or not the last battle, but like the battle with Gore and all of them on that weird world where everything's black and white. I mean, I'm a sucker for black and white and color splashing in ever since I was a kid, and I read Frank Miller at too young of an age. So like, that stuff was great for me, and I got where Taika was coming from. But then I saw Wakanda Forever.
Ooh,
and it just made me look back at that and feel incredibly disappointed, because I'm not a Ragnarok lover. I think it's fun, but I love Taika Waititi as a writer and director, and I know it might be controversial for some, but Jojo Rabbit was probably my favorite movie of 2019, at least tied with Knives Out. And I know that the man, when he puts his heart and soul into a movie, like with Boy, which is still one of my favorite movies of all time, and I saw Hunt for the Wilder People recently this past year, that was incredible. And I look at his Marvel outings and I just think, where is that sincerity? Like, there are points in Love and Thunder where I feel it the most, because primarily he was a co-writer on that, but I also feel him struggling, like he isn't able to make the movie that he wants to make. I don't know if that makes sense, but I see where
you're coming from.
No, I know what you're trying to say.
I get you. That's kind of my thing with Marvel, and why I'm going to be honest with you guys. The only Marvel movies I have seen within like the past probably like 7 years at this rate are probably just the Spider-Man movies, and I have no major interest or desire to see most of them, to be honest with you guys. Not assuming that they're bad, just my thing is, I don't want a prerequisite of watching 10 different movies to understand what's going on in the two I care about.
No, that's fair enough.
That's totally fair. And admittingly, some of the recent Marvel movies have that problem.
That's one of the inherent flaws of a cinematic universe, in my opinion, is that not everyone's going to be equally interested in all the movies.
Yeah, like I don't have time to watch 3 2.5 hour CGI superhero movies. Like, I honestly just picked out Spider-Man just because, well, I grew up loving Spider-Man, and those were the ones I was interested to see. So, I mean, you know, but so I totally get where you're coming from, Josh.
Well, that was just one movie, and I'll plow through the second one. But in order to do so, I got to present a narrative. So we've seen some good movies this year, and one of my friends, her name is Claude, shout out to her, she recommends, what if we just go see a bad movie this year? Like at some point we find like a movie that's projected to be terrible and just go in and just be ready to like just have a ball with roasting it. And we're like, okay, cool. And then she finds the movie. And this is a movie that was pretty controversial already. I have a feeling you guys know, but there's a reveal. So
Keep going.
it's around, it was near the end of the year. We finally got the tickets to go see the movie, and I'm getting slightly candid here, but things were not the best in that month that I saw it, because we were prepared for it, but when it came time for it, there was just a whole bunch of like drama, and there was a whole bunch of like just negative vibes that were going around in general in my personal life and in my close circle. And we just were not in the best shape to go see a movie, but here we were, and we were going to go watch a movie. I was incredibly deflated and upset. Everybody was, and then we show up, tensions are high, and we purposely chose a really shitty theater to watch this at, which coincidentally was one of the movie theaters I used to work at, not the Alamo. We decided this movie, if it's going to be bad, we didn't want to see it at a good theater. So this is partially on us. And we sit down, and we're watching the movie, tensions are high, we're not talking to each other, we're not even having a good time, but it would be worth it if the movie was good or the experience was good. And in front of us, in the middle of the movie, someone got a phone call and started talking on their phone like 2 rows in front of us. And then they stepped out, but they didn't step out of the theater. They stepped in that little hallway that you go in to walk into the theater.
Oh no.
And they're talking at full volume. We're just like, Jesus Christ. And then on top of that, the movie isn't grabbing us. And then the movie ends, and we're all left with this, what the fuck was that? And I can only describe it as what a good friend of mine who was there described as Mark Zuckerberg's WandaVision. I'm talking about Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, that
Oh,
was
I'm so sorry you picked that movie.
that was such a disappointment.
That movie is only notable because of the fun controversy around it, not the
Well,
actual
that's-
movie.
I
That's
just
the
feel
thing.
bad for Florence Pugh. That's all I'm gonna say.
Me too.
Same.
Like watching that movie, I'll admit, I went into it with slightly high but low expectations because I wasn't crazy about Booksmart, but I'm supportive of Olivia Wilde as a director. And Don't Worry, Darling seemed a little bit more up my alley. I love Florence Pugh. I want to marry her. I love Harry Styles' music, surprisingly, and he's one of the men that I would risk everything for, at least initially. And I'll be honest, the setting kind of intrigued me. And I was thinking, all right, good on Olivia Wilde for stepping up her game and going to some pretty high peaks for her second film. Let's see if it pays off. And then the controversy happened, and then everything happened, and then there was the Zapruder film spit shot of whether or not Harry Styles spit into Chris Pine's hands. I felt
Second
bad
spitter,
for
yeah.
I felt bad for Chris Pine, especially, because that man, God bless him, he was doing the best with what he could do.
Chris Pine, terrible year. Between that and the awful joke in the Pinocchio Disney
Oh, yeah.
film.
I
Chris
know.
Pine.
And just the most confounding thing. Well, there's 2 confounding things, but the first most confounding thing is the ending, because you feel where it's going. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone kind of thing, but you're like, all right, maybe it's building up to something. And just when the movie seems to finally hit a kind of peak and I was back into it, it just ends. It's like, no, there's more story here. Go back, rewrite it, reshoot it. What the fuck? And then the second thing, in the back of my mind, I was thinking back to that interview that Olivia Wilde had, where she talked about how this is a sex positive movie and only the women come in our movie and this and that. And it's almost, Can a filmmaker gaslight their own project to themselves?
Yeah, you can
I
convince
did not
yourself
think that
you
was
made something
possible.
good.
Yeah.
Because like everything in the text of that movie implies that every time Florence Pugh and Harry Styles do anything, it's kind of unethical and very, very creepy.
Since we're bringing up Chris Pine, I'm totally getting Wonder Woman flashbacks of that Wonder Woman sequel right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'm
the
just
one that
feeling worse
COVID
and
delayed until
I'm
everyone
feeling
saw it.
worse and worse for him by the minute now from this description.
Here's
Yeah.
the thing. I'm the outlier in this. I really like Wonder Woman 1984. I can see where
Same.
people don't like
Yeah.
it, but I do enjoy that, and he is the best part in that. This is worse. You've seen the movie, right?
Yeah.
I have, and yeah, I don't like his role at all.
Because
I
he wasn't even
mercifully
supposed to be
dodged
in
it.
it originally.
What?
Olivia Wilde wrote his character into the movie because she saw Jordan Peterson and was like, "Oh, I should have a Jordan Peterson analog in my movie, even though it doesn't really fit the narrative that I'm
Wait, he's
going."
supposed to be Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, he was.
That's the only thing I'll support. Anything to take
Oh,
shots at Jordan
no.
Peterson is a good thing, but yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But
There was actually an interview with Jordan Peterson where the interviewer brought up, Olivia Wilde called you the king of the incels. Do you think that's accurate? And he just said, sure, why not?
That's actually a pretty good impression of him, Jacob. I'll give you credit.
He basically Kermit the Frog.
Well, yeah, he's just Kermit the Frog with like a higher pitch,
I think maybe the women should not have rights.
pretty much.
There's actually a Jordan Peterson generator. It says they're generating some Jordan Peterson wisdom. It's like radical trans activists are hysterically complaining about Carl Jung's earthy logos spawning from the group identity, even if I'm not allowed to say that in a so-called safe space.
Oh my!
In the
God.
shadow self, because Jungian told me, yeah, that's.
But
I'm making fun of him, but
it's like his character is just. I'm more blown away with this movie in the fact that I feel like they tried to weaponize stan culture. Everyone loves Florence Pugh. Everyone loves Harry Styles. Seeing them have sex on screen, that's going to bring in the millions. And it's the most painfully icky thing in all of cinema last year. I can't think of anything that genuinely disgusted me more than seeing these two being directed like this. And even worse, there wasn't an intimacy coordinator on set.
oh no.
And it frustrates me because I was kind of on board with the movie and I kind of liked it, but upon reflection, the movie just makes my blood boil. It is a waste of a concept, and I'm taking all of the the controversy out of the picture. On its own, it's a frustrating experience. It wasn't boring, I'll give it that, but I agree with my friend Claude. After we watched it, she gave it a rating of I wish I waited until it came out on streaming out of 10.
My opinion on it was ultimately I was pretty intrigued by the premise, and then I wasn't hating it. I think really it comes down to the script being just. Can we just say right now that the ending makes no sense at all?
Nope.
My biggest problem with it is that the twist was hardly a twist at all. She's in a virtual reality.
And apparently in the original script, it wasn't. That was revealed 15 minutes into the movie, and then Olivia Wilde decided to stretch it out to be a twist, apparently.
Oh, was a terrible.
From what I've heard, but it just it's one of those movies where I was kind of vibing with it, and then just the reveal happened. I'm like, wait, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. That just, and then my brain just was working overtime to try to figure it out, which you don't want to have in a movie. You don't want to have to think about it more than the writers apparently did.
Feels like a low-rent Star Trek episode.
Yes.
I remember Olivia Wilde, she said at CinemaCon last year where she said that this movie was a tribute to challenging cinema.
No.
Oh, it challenged cinema, all right. It challenged my ability to stay in the theater.
Yeah, I feel like that title is almost mocking you. Oh, don't worry, darling.
Don't worry, audience. Remember, this will be good. Halfway decent.
Red Letter Media's Jay, he called it a college student screenplay.
Oh my god, he's so right. I saw that episode and went, yeah, I saw it too. I just got because I had to know because of the controversy. That's all I cared about.
It does kind of feel pretty half-assed, especially once you get to the twist and everything just kind of falls apart like flan from there.
I thought the dinner scene was pretty tense. I like that.
And also, if we're recommending videos, real quick, I just want to plug there's a video by Princess Weeks on YouTube, and she does an analysis.
I know her, yeah.
She does an analysis comparing it to both of the Stepford Wives movies. And
there was a lot, very, very blatantly Stepford Wives.
Yeah, and she does a really, really solid and great argument as to why the original Stepford Wives, out of the three movies, the original Stepford remake and the Don't Worry Darling, the original Stepford Wives ends up being the most progressive, which is interesting. But yeah, watch that video. It's really good.
I guess with all of that in mind, how about we talk about some good shit?
What a concept.
We'll add, you mentioned with Taika Waititi, I wasn't going to mention it because it's more his television stuff, but this is kind of the year where I just soured on him entirely. Like, okay, I liked some of his films. I liked he directed What We Do in the Shadows, right? The original one.
Yeah, he co-directed it with Jermaine Clement.
Okay, just want to make sure because I love that. I love the show, even though I don't think it has much input on that. Like Thor Ragnarok. The new Thor. Okay. This is where wacky and charming starts to run into a brick wall when you have, oh yeah, the girl who's dying of cancer. Let's have some jokes.
Screaming goats, like it's 2011.
Yeah.
I will not hear any slander on the goats. I love them. No.
By the way, you know that side note, those goats don't actually scream like that. That's an edit for the video.
Obviously.
I just want to make sure because some people did not know that. But I don't know, just that, and then maybe the biggest dagger in the back, his pirate TV show from February. Oh God, I'm probably the only person in the world that kind of loathes the damn thing, but oh well, I do. Although this is purely because I'm the pirate historian, and this movie show is literally him going, do. I'm going to piss off historians because this is not the way history was, even though he says it is. But it's also a myth that's somehow become a thing lately. And also, this is directly related to a paper I've written for a conference, and I have to reference this show because it's tiring. A lot of people like that show. What was it? Our Flag Means Death. It's honestly just kind of a waste of a once in a lifetime great real life pirate story that somehow gets mangled into something else that I understand why people like, but I just can't. Oh well.
Before we get too off track, we'll rapid fire through some other dishonorable mentions. Hayden, you mentioned a couple movies that you were nonplussed about.
Yes. So because one of my worst movie of the year we'll probably get into because it ties into a movie that I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about positively, so I won't get into that one. There were some movies that I just found boring as tar, like not tar.
I was gonna say don't.
Yeah,
not tar.
As in. Anyway, boring as fuck, shit, whatever I can say. Anyway, So there were movies that were really boring, like Black Adam and Jurassic World Dominion. Was that the subtitle? I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was Dominion.
Those were just movies that left very little impact on me. So not much you can say.
I saw those movies and I forgot they even came out this year. In one year, out the other. Yeah.
So my number 2 and number 3 worst. We'll start with a movie that I had some very high hopes for on learning the premise, and it just so did not deliver, and I was very sad about it. It was They Them on Peacock. Or They/Them on Peacock.
I've heard. Yeah, I've heard.
So I thought, interesting concept. Let's have a horror movie set at a gay conversion camp, which, on paper, I can see how they can somehow make something out of that. John Logan is an openly gay director. I love Penny Dreadful. I love a lot of his work. The movie was just dull. It was so misguided, and really, it comes down to one thing. It should not have been a slasher. And I mean that in a particular way. It just did not work as a slasher movie. I did not feel any of the tension. All of the slashing scenes, I was just bored out of my mind. And what was frustrating was there were scenes that were actually really, really good, that were a lot more psychological. There was a very chilling scene with Carrie Preston as one of the counselors talking to our main character, who is non-binary, who I really, Theo Germain, they give a really good performance in it. I will say that. There's a scene where Carrie Preston is just talking to our main character, and she presents it in a very sweet way, but she's saying these horrible, mean, like, things that are just stabbing into their soul. And that's like the scariest thing about it. And it's just delivered with this sweetness. And then it just falls apart when they start the actual killing. And it just made me think, God, if this were a completely psychological horror movie, I would be all for this. I can see some Invasion of the Body Snatchers type thing where these campers are just becoming husks of their former selves and are
the movie I had in mind that would have worked much better with this premise is, I don't know if anyone saw Steven Soderbergh's Unsane.
Mm-hmm.
Like think of that, but instead of a mental hospital, it's a conversion camp, and that would have been so much better than whatever them turned out to be.
It was, and I like the title, They/Them, pun. That's cute.
Yeah, the title's brilliant.
But it did not work. It was just boring, and also it was so bloody dark that I couldn't see what was going on at a lot of the time. So that's a trend that I would really like to see go away. Let us see the bloody action on screen. I don't want to look at complete darkness the entire movie. Anyway. So that was the first one. And I'm not going to really go that much into the next one, but I saw Fantastic Beasts 3, The Secrets of Dumbledore.
You actually saw that?
I will just say I did not pay for it.
Okay, we're good.
Because the powers that be of that franchise.
She who shall not be named.
She who shall not be named. But I will say out of all the three, it was the least boring, maybe, ? But it is bad and makes no sense. And that's kind of all I have to say about that. Movie bad.
Yeah,
that's a fair assessment for anything involving Miss Joe nowadays.
Jacob, do you have any dishonorable mentions?
Not much that you guys haven't mentioned already, but Black Adam was pretty dull. It was. It just, I don't know, like it just was just monotonous for me. It was just one tone throughout the whole thing. It was just a bad idea to have Black Adam be the star and not the villain in a Shazam movie, which I actually think the personalities between him and Shazam would clash pretty well, actually. And it's a shame that now, thanks to James Gunn and Peter Zaslav, what's his name? Peter
Safran.
Peter Safran, yeah. Peter Safran. And like that was his one and only outing, it seems like, at least in the foreseeable future. So yeah, I wasn't sure why a spinoff of Shazam took itself so deathly seriously. Like it like there were some funny quips, but there was nothing in here that wasn't done better in other superhero movies, be they DC or Marvel. Like I don't know, the characters, the Justice Society, except for Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate and Aldous Hodge's Hawkman, they got like no development whatsoever. Like Atom Smasher and Cyclones.
They did not need to be in the movie at all. They could have removed them completely, and the story would have had no impact.
Yeah. The most clever thing in the movie was the Henry Winkler cameo.
I did get a kick out of that.
Yeah, but the stuff between Black Adam and the kid was just blatantly Terminator and John Connor, even down to the kid teaching him catchphrases. And they even recite the title "Let him go," or and then he just and he drops the person from like 100 feet or whatever. We already saw that in The Dark Knight and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, for God's sake. Honestly, I'm not even really sure why the movie's so hung up by the fact that Black Adam kills people. Then don't all the other DC characters... Wasn't that the reason why Man of Steel was so controversial? Or
every superhero movie has had killing in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly. So what makes Black Adam so special?
Well, the problem with Superman was he was basically causing 9/11 every 2 seconds, and no one seemed to have any realization that this was...
Honestly, all Black Adam did was make me appreciate movies like The Suicide Squad more. Like, really refreshing out there movies. And I do feel sorry for the people who got excited when Henry Cavill showed up in the post-credits scene. Like,
oh god, that's the most awkward post-credit scene I think.
Embarrassing. Like, only like not even 2 months later, they say, "Oh nope, sorry, it's Superman's getting a full-on reboot."
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. This is why it's different when Black Adam does it, Jacob. It's because with Black Adam, with Superman, it's about a truth, justice, and the American way. With Black Adam, it's about drive and it's about power. He stays hungry and he devours.
It's about family.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say real quick, what a choice to have the title character away for the first half of the climax.
Yeah. Like it takes like we don't see him until like yeah. The Rock still has some charisma. I did like some of the lines he gives. Like when he tries to attempt sarcasm, I thought that was pretty funny.
Honestly,
I
kind of not respect him as much after this movie, after all the things he was doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, like he was trying to sell tequila at the premiere for this PG-13 movie, apparently.
Yep.
Yeah. With the worst out of the way, how about we talk about the best of the year now?
Yeah, because I was gonna.
Because we've been kind of going on about the worst of the year, and I was kind of like, oh well, This will probably be like 15 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, we had a surprising amount to say. I'm just gonna throw one more title, and then we'll move on to the best. Morbius was a thing, and that's literally all you have to say.
Yeah, let's just leave that conversation there rather than get into that thing.
Doesn't exist.
It's not that it doesn't exist. All I will say is I will watch it as a curiosity piece on Amazon Prime. That is it.
More
Morbius
like
exists in the same way Shazam, the comedy that doesn't exist, exists.
yeah, more like more BS.
Okay, the best thing about it was that it made Sony lose more money. That's it.
Who would like to go first for best of the year? Because like I've got 10 movies I'm gonna go through, but I don't know about everybody else.
Hayden, let's start with you because you are the reason why literally before we start recording squeezed in one last minute addition to my top 5. So go ahead.
Yes. So some backstory real quick.
All right.
So the movie is Matilda the Musical, and I will get that out of the way. So that story, Matilda, the book, as well as the movie, that's always been kind of a part of my DNA as a person, and I've been a huge fan of the musical adaptation for a long time now, since it was on the West End in the early 2010s. That's one of my favorite musicals of all time, just because the story means a lot to me. And so when they made a film adaptation, I was just like, I was having a state of euphoria because just of how much the story of Matilda means to me, ultimately. And they just I feel they did it such justice, and really made something special in the end. And really, really wish that Netflix would promote it a little bit more, but yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But I will just say the music, I've always loved the music of this show. And I think Tim Minchin, who does the music, it's so, so smart, and the lyrics are just brilliant. And Mike, do you want to say something just so I can like bounce off, I guess, just because I don't really know where to begin, frankly.
Well, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yes.
First of all, I'm aware that the director Matthew Warchus and the screenwriter Dennis Kelly, they were involved with like all the stage productions, but what about the rest of the cast? Are these all are they playing these characters for the first time for the film, or are some of these like returning stage actors?
So some of the returning stage actors are in mostly cameo roles. So one of the mothers in the opening song, she was the original Miss Honey on Broadway, and also director Matthew Warchus's wife. So there are a lot of cameos. For the most part, though, I think some of the kids were also did the show in the West End. But for the most part, the main characters are completely new to the material.
Okay, the reason I asked is because even though I've never like read the source material, just from what I know, from what I know of, like, I guess even Danny DeVito's film version, that this is probably some of the best casting I've seen in any movie musical. The two that really stand out are Alicia Wire as the titular Matilda and Emma Thompson as Agatha Trunchbull. I like Emma Thompson is always great, but there's just something about her delivery, the costume, hair and makeup, everything. She was born to play this role.
Right. And I also want to shout out Lashana Lynch as Miss Honey, who I think does a beautiful, beautiful performance in this.
Yes.
And right off the bat, I want to just say there have been some people complaining who clearly did not do the research. I've seen way too many comments that are, why are they remaking Matilda? Or why are they British? It's when it's a British book.
They British? It's, what? That's an actual complaint?
People are complaining that it's British because they do not realize that it is based on a British book.
They don't know Roald Dahl.
And that just makes me, it's frustrating to read every time, and it just makes me want to scream into my pillow because it's just like, how are you so confident about being so wrong? What I really love about the movie is how it takes advantage of being a movie and a musical, which is so rare for movie musicals nowadays.
100% agree. I said earlier that this was the year of maximalism, and this movie is kind of it is like the musical equivalent of that maximalism that I was talking about. I don't think I've seen a movie musical edited this well since, I guess, Chicago.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's high praise.
And
this one's legit.
Like, it goes so much harder, and as we were echoing this thought earlier, but when I found out that it was getting a limited theatrical release, I'm like, okay, I'm there opening night because of how much I support this. I've supported this musical for so long. I've supported this story for so long. I'm there no matter what. And I took a bit of a drive just to get there, and worth it. And I am so upset that Netflix, like with some of their other movies, have been refusing to release it in theaters for a longer period of time. It's just, this is a movie that I think really, really pops in a theater, and I'm so glad I saw it in that setting.
Netflix has been doing a lot of these musicals lately, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so I would say see it on a big screen to get the full effect, but unfortunately you kind of can't. So yeah, there might be a more in-depth discussion on a later date pending. So
yeah, because I realized as I was watching this that I have so much more I could say, but this podcast is already on the lengthy side, so we'll table that discussion for another date.
And last note is, this movie did literally make me cry 8 times, and I counted. I was a mess.
So what do you think? It's a little bit better than the Diana musical from last year.
Just a bit. Just a bit, though. I can go on about the majesty of that.
Oh, me too.
Train wreck that I have watched more
thing.
times than I probably should admit.
Oh, you have too? I'm so glad I'm the only person who's done that.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Jacob, why don't you go next? Because I know there's a couple of titles that you've been begging to talk about.
Well, one film I saw, which was very personal for me, was Bad Axe, a documentary about Rachel's Food and Spirits, a restaurant, family-owned restaurant in Bad Axe, Michigan. And it's about their struggles during the COVID-19 pandemic and with all the racism that was directed at them, the anti-Asian racism that they were at the receiving end of, because a lot of that happened during the early ages of the pandemic. They become more politically active. They become closer as a family when when things look their worst. It truly is a movie about a immigrant family trying to get a slice of the American dream, essentially. It's about them just rolling up their sleeves and overcoming their flaws, and just being and sticking their necks out for each other. It's incredibly touching. It's incredibly moving. The people that it focuses on are very charming. The film gets very tense at times when they have to deal with the absolute worst people you could possibly come across during that time. It's a beautiful portrait about family love, about ambition, about them trying to strive in a community that is hostile towards them. Absolutely give it a watch if you haven't heard of this movie, because it's a big, huge contender for best documentary feature of the Oscars, and it absolutely deserves it.
Where can we watch this?
It's on VOD.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of it? Bad Axe?
I know it premiered at South by Southwest earlier this year.
And what was kind of revealing was that when I asked a ticket for this, the guy who gave me the ticket had never even heard of Bad Axe, the town, and
wow.
he just said, "Oh, it almost sounds like a swear word," apparently it's a movie, like the director of it, the son of the parents running the restaurant, like he intended this to be a love letter to Bad Axe, essentially. But when we saw like with them interacting with literal Nazis, okay, like they're like, there is a dark underbelly to rural America, because that was where most of the anti-maskers were, and all the racists too, like with the calling it like the Chinese virus. And what's interesting is the father, the patriarch, he actually grew up in Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge, which is why he has such a fighting spirit in him. And so he's kind of the glue that holds family together, but he's incredibly stubborn. Like he wants to go to the restaurant even when it means he put his health in danger, and when his daughter is begging him not to. And they all have their ambitions. Some are wanting to run the restaurant, others are going to college. One of them has a white husband. The daughter has a white husband who's kind of in the mix of all this. I mix like he's so he has his experience as well, and it's a powerful movie, man. And it kind of puts into perspective, like this was early in 2020, while at the same time we were we were actually doing the top podcast talking about all these movies, and meanwhile all this shit was happening. So it was kind of a sobering reminder, actually, that other people didn't have it so easy, because they were at the receiving end of prejudice and they were trying to make a positive change.
It's kind of eerie how the truth can come out like that when there's a camera around.
Yeah. There's a part in the movie where a guy pretends to be deaf so he doesn't have to wear a mask when he enters.
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah. And once they're at a George Floyd, like Black Lives Matter march, and they come across these people whom they think at first are just right-wing shitheads, like proud, but then turns out that they are running like an underground Nazi camp, and when they started stalking them, they were actually arrested because of it. And
Holy shit.
yeah, holy shit indeed. And it also makes me want to go all the way to Bad Axe, even though it's like 2 miles away from where I live, just to try out their food. So, yeah, are you guys interested?
Yeah.
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 I'll admit I'm not the best at keeping up with all of the documentaries that release each year, but when one like this like really stands out, like that's when I know it becomes a must watch.
Yeah, it truly is. You guys owe it to yourself to watch this, because it is something else.
Tyler, why don't you go next?
Tyler?
Did we lose you?
Tyler.
AFK.
All right. Well, in the meantime, Josh, I know there's one movie that you and I probably both have on the top of our lists.
So there's two, but I'll plow through the second, like the first one real quick so I can get to the real meat. Like I said, these two are interchangeable on a good day, but one of them is for sure going to be like that movie that could potentially rival West Side Story, which beat out Django Unchained for me. First movie that I'm going to talk about is Pinocchio. All I can say is this is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, not any of the other ones that came out this year.
The year of Pinocchio.
But
Not the Pauly Shore version.
No, I had the whole world to see, and that was Guillermo's world.
I got the whole world to see.
There's not much to say about it that I probably won't end up gushing on a future video, because for sure my videos are coming back this year. But Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio was honestly fucking beautiful.
It was.
Just everything down to just that distinct Guillermo del Toro style. And the fact that, I'll be honest, I've never seen any version of Pinocchio before this. So this was my first Pinocchio story.
Not even the Disney film 1940?
Surprisingly, I don't know, just I never got a chance to watch it, and I have Disney Plus, but I don't know. There was something so pure about this. And the fact that if you're a Guillermo del Toro fan, there's so many little visual nods to his other movies that are just motifs at this point. Like the fact that everything that happens with Carlo almost feels like a mirror of Devil's Backbone. Even down to like the shot of the bomb dropping into the town. And oh my God, just for me, the scene of the year, at least one of the scenes of the year, is the whole montage where Pinocchio sings Ciao Papa.
Yeah.
And just the fact that it went to the places it did, involving Mussolini and Tom Kenny voicing Mussolini.
I love it.
Yeah, what a thing to have on his resume.
There's a point where I want to say maybe it's a stereotype and racist that Mussolini has such an over-the-top Italian accent for his two sentences in the movie, but on the other hand, it's Mussolini, so
also his family are still in politics, and they're actually getting more powerful in Italy, so I think mocking him is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And just the broader discussions about death, it's very heady, and I know it's not a kid's movie.
Oh no!
But at the same time, with a story like Pinocchio, it will be seen by kids, and I think it's very impressive that Del Toro was able to get so much mileage out of the story, and you could just feel that this was one of those long gestating projects that he was finally able to bring to life. Just the
10 years,
joy.
wasn't it?
15 years in the making.
15.
Oh, even worse.
Which is
And
saying something because like a lot of his projects never get up on the ground.
This
like,
got canceled at one point.
yeah, and it came back to life thanks to Netflix. That's one thing I'll give them.
yeah, but for like canceling all like their Netflix, like they even turned down the follow up to Klaus actually from the studio SBA Studios. What the fuck?
But like, and then it has that Jim Henson Company charm. Surprisingly, not a lot of people are talking about the Jim Henson Company's role in this, but I can see that magic on there, especially as someone who loved the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. But that's one of the movies, 10 out of 10, personal tie pick for favorite film of the year. The other film.
Hold on. Before you get there, I already said my piece on Pinocchio earlier on an episode of Animation, but I'll reiterate one point I made then here. For anyone who loves this movie but hasn't watched the 30-minute behind the scenes documentary, you owe it to yourself to do that, because they do such a great job of really breaking down every fine detail from the illustrations to all the different models, including like all the different size models of Pinocchio and all the different characters. It was just a really cool experience getting like a deeper look into how this movie was made.
And just the really cool, in my opinion, detail that Mexican animators were the ones that touched Pinocchio and Sebastian, which I think is a really, really nice touch for Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah. Hayden, you had something to add too?
Yeah, so I'm just going to say the worst film of my year and how it connects to this, because the worst film that I saw this year is the Robert Zemeckis remake of Pinocchio by Disney. And I'm not going to get too much into that, but I will say it made a lot of different changes to the source material that did not work in the Disney remake.
Nope.
But they made very similar changes in the Del Toro film to the story that worked much better than they did in the Zemeckis movie, because they actually built up to them and let them play out and actually wrote them well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did amazingly. And I just think that's very, very funny how that ended up turning out. It's just, but yeah. Great. Guillermo del Toro did a great job. Take all the Oscars.
Yeah, please win the Oscar this time. Give it to a stop motion film.
I would adore that.
Yeah.
What was the last time stop motion movie actually won Best Animated Feature?
But that was the first movie, and then the second movie. This will come as no surprise to Michael. In fact, I bet he was anticipating this the second the trailer dropped, and Jacob knows about this too. But it's kind of interesting when a director feels in their element, because I saw Amsterdam, and that was well, I didn't see Amsterdam. I saw clips, and that was a director not in his element. And I'm seeing all these A-list celebrities delivering this dialogue that could sound wistful in theory and maybe even inspiring at some points, but it just comes across like a really shitty high school production.
Yeah, that movie is a whiff and a half. We have whiff on a great historical story to the execution. I don't know how long on that one.
Let's hope that this is the one that puts the director in jail.
Yeah, that too.
And I say all that because it is a shock going from seeing clips of David O. Russell's Amsterdam floating around on Twitter in my feed sometimes to mock how bad it is, to seeing clips of the Fabelmans and seeing everybody seemingly pulling a 180 on Spielberg and recognizing Oh yeah, he's considered one of the greatest for a reason. The Fablemans is more than a movie for me. It was an out-of-body experience. I got to see it on a double feature day where I saw Glass Onion afterwards. Great
Ooh.
double feature, by the way. It was fun getting to go to the Alamo, even though I was on the brink of pissing myself watching the Fablemans. But I powered through because it was honestly really surreal watching it. I adore the Spielberg documentary on HBO Max, so everything in that documentary is more or less in this movie, and it didn't surprise me, truth be told. But what did
Blatantly
surprise me,
autobiographical.
it's
Yeah.
blatantly, but in a way that's so much more revealing of Spielberg than I ever expected. I mean, there's a weird trend with him where he's the writer, where everyone seems to write off his movies as like, oh yeah, this is like fun and whimsical. Close Encounters of the Third Kind never came off as a fun movie. In fact, I struggle with that movie a lot, primarily because it's so depressing. And AI, which in my opinion is horrifically underrated. Not a lot of people talk about it except to rag on Spielberg for attempting to ape Kubrick.
Another Pinocchio movie,
Well,
ironically.
I wouldn't call that. I
Pinocchio.
wouldn't call that an ape. That was more like a weird, like, mix project that eventually became like a memorial project. And ape's the wrong word for that movie.
But even then, there's like so much of Spielberg's, I want to call it like inner cynic in him. And there are even bits of AI that remind me of the Fablemans, namely the whole first act. And then you get to the Fablemans, and people are writing it off as, oh yeah, it's just another love letter to cinema. And when you watch it, you can be fooled with that, with Janusz Kaminski's gorgeous cinematography and John Williams's beautifully bittersweet symphonies that he has playing, where it almost kind of, in a way, kind of gaslights you with this, oh yeah, this is a really breezy movie. But it's so reflective. And I know I'm using that word a lot right now, but just in the way that Spielberg kind of comes to terms with a lot of stuff in his past and in his childhood, as well as the power that art has. Like there's just so much to dissect from that. But I saw a lot of myself in Sammy, both good and bad. And I'll leave it with most of that, but it was honestly one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. And there is one visual in that movie that will shock me to my core every time. Spoiler alert, Spielberg's parents get divorced. But the scene where it happens, I was already kind of like, oh no, this is happening. But then it cuts to Sammy as his siblings are arguing with his parents. And then in the middle of it, it cuts to Sammy pushing in as he's kind of shocked, like just kind of quietly panicking inside. And then he looks at the mirror and he sees himself more or less disassociating by shooting his parents' argument with a camera. And it cuts back to him and he almost looks horrified. It is, I'll be honest, that is something that I have done in my personal life, when I have disassociated a few times in my life, and it is that's how it felt for me. But that's all I'll say about the Fablemans. It is absolutely stunning. It is hard to watch for me at times, but it's also very beautiful, and I really hope that, if for nothing else, if it wins anything, I hope it wins Best Director, because this is, honest to God, Spielberg to his core. And like he said in the documentary, for him, movie making is his pen and paper. It's his canvas.
I have still not seen the HBO documentary, but Pinocchio and The Fablemans are exactly my number one and number two movie of the year. They're both just great examples of, like you said, the purest distillation of what both these creators have to say about storytelling, about like their own like hardships and just all of that stuff. And there's a scene in the second half of The Fabelmans where Sammy is confronting this one bully.
Oh yeah,
that
was brilliantly handled.
Yeah, that was just one of my favorite scenes because for like slight spoilers, but one of Sammy's assignments was to film their what do they call it, like
Their senior ditch day.
Yeah, senior ditch day.
I did for my school, and I even used one of the same shots that Sammy ends the movie on.
Nice. But anyway, in the movie for senior skip day, he makes the bully look like a superhero, like a top star athlete. And yet that's supposed to be a bad thing in like the context of the narrative. And I don't know, I found that kind of fascinating. Yeah. And it's just another example of the power of the camera.
Yeah. My most powerful scene for me in that movie was when Sammy lets his mother watch that footage she recorded with her and Seth Rogen, and how she just like that's her way of knowing that he knew that she was having an affair with him. But like, yeah, the Fabelmans, it truly is something else, man. Although Paul Dano and Michelle Williams, they definitely should be up there in the Oscar race.
They are. They definitely are.
And yet, it all boils down to the very important lesson, which is never shoot the horizon in the middle.
Spielberg, I don't even know what to think about him anymore. Just when I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to stick with Spielberg. He'll make something like this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is really good. And then he'll announce something like he's remaking Bullet, and then I go like, oh, Spielberg, don't.
And and Judd Hirsch. Judd Hirsch should get Best Supporting Actor, in my opinion, because he's not in for very much, but he just absolutely makes the most of it.
He essentially gives out the thesis of the movie.
He does.
Also want to throw out David Lynch's wonderful
John Ford.
No notes. Amazing.
The theater was dying. It wasn't packed, but it had like a fair amount of old people in it, and they were dying at the length it took for him to light his cigar.
That's Lynch.
The final shot's freaking brilliant too.
But yeah, those are my two of the year, and Fabelmans, like I said, it could knock West Side Story, another Spielberg joint. Like, this man.
Yeah, there's a reason why he is still kind of considered the king of Hollywood.
Guys, I just had to throw in. I just came across an article that said John Williams isn't actually retiring.
Yeah, I saw that he said he's not retiring. He's going to restore the Bullet remake.
Yeah,
which
see that's the thing about creative people. They don't know how to be anything other than creative.
Well, I guess Indy 5 is going to be a little bit less special because it's no longer his last score.
Honestly, when he goes, so should the entire Star Wars movies, at least the Skywalker saga, because I don't want there to be a Star Wars movie where he doesn't compose the score.
Yeah, I don't think the mouse is going to let you do that.
I just advocate for him leaving Star Wars just to spite the Star Wars fanboys, but that's just me.
Yeah, they can always do a slap or two.
Oh yeah, anything to make Star Wars fanboys unhappy and cry some more, I advocate for that.
Um, so Nick, I know you have a bevy of options for best of the year, but there's one in particular that, like, although I've only seen it once, I have been telling pretty much everyone I know, you got to go see this, and don't look anything up.
So I wasn't just gonna go with one movie. I was actually just gonna go through like my top 10. And I was actually just gonna like kind of hammer that out because like I kind of feel my thing is I don't like to give away plot details in movies really. I just kind of like to go like, hey, here's the movie. Go see it. And like if I'm telling you to go see it, it's gonna be one of those movies that it's like, yeah, this is one of those like you gotta check this off your list movies. So like if it's okay, I might actually just do a lightning round of all of mine leading into my number one.
And it's off to the races.
Okay. Pun intended or unintended in this case, because my number 10 is going to be Nope. I actually don't think this is Jordan Peele's best movie per se. I still think Get Out and Us are better as movies personally, just, their own separate entities, I guess is a better phrase. But I thought Nope, in terms of scale, it does what it does very, very well. The actors are all great as usual, it being a Jordan Peele production. The effects look great. The set pieces were insanely fun to watch, especially the Gordy's home sequences. Those were insanely tense and went more balls out with the violence than I thought that it would for a Jordan Peele movie even. But again, this was one of those, I feel like my appreciation would go up more on a second watch rather than my initial viewing in the theater, which despite it being a really great theater experience, I think it would be one of those, it benefits from a rewatch kind of movies. I hope I don't sound too off base saying that.
No. I get you. Having just rewatched it recently, it does work better after multiple viewings.
Absolutely. This one, though, my number 9 pick is one my feelings were very concrete on, and I regret not seeing this in the theater, and that was The Black Phone. Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill are probably the best writing directing duo in horror, I would argue, at least very much high up there, because this was one of the most tense coming of age horror movies I've seen this pretty much ever, beyond just this year. As much as Ethan Hawke is not a fan of horror as a whole, I want to see him do more horror movies. Being a big fan of Sinister, this is, I would say, probably his best horror performance in a horror movie. I would say he's intimidating and intense and charming when he needs to be, but again, it's an absolutely tense movie of, will this kid get out of the grabber's basement? And again, the coming of age stuff just works so well, and when it needs to be emotionally moving, it is. Watch The Black Phone if you haven't. And I just want to say, just kind of as a on point, not on point, go look up pictures of Joe Hill. He is the spitting image of Stephen King.
He really is.
Oh, right down to his 70s facial hair. My next pick, and this is going to be a further example of why I greatly dislike my overrated pick. My number 8 is Terrifier 2. This was an example of how you can make an exceptionally violent horror movie that doesn't need to cross the line. I'm going to describe one scene in Terrifier 2 and kind of just use that as why the sadness did not work for me, whereas this movie really did. Yes, Terrifier 2 does have a scene where a woman is given a knife to the eye. Yes, she is scalped. Yes, she is just stabbed repeatedly and literally has salt poured into her wounds. But not once am I just sitting there going, this just feels like disgusting overkill. Not like every time I've seen Damien Leone talk about this movie in an interview, he's always just kind of been like, you know what? I wanted to make an exceptionally violent slasher movie, but I never wanted the violence to just be like, oh, I'm just making something violent to just make everybody feel miserable and walk out of the theater going, well, that was a movie we sat through. No, his attitude was, I want it to be something fantastical, and it feels like a horror movie made for horror fans. And again, I never once felt like this was something that was just crossing the line to push buttons for the sake of crossing the line to push buttons. And I really feel like a lot of the reaction to Terrifier 2 is a bit overblown, especially with the whole, oh, it's making people walk out of the theater throwing up and passing out. Like, yeah, that might be happening, but again, like if you're acclimatized to slasher movies like I am, for me, I just go, it's a slasher movie that just doesn't cut away from the more gruesome bits, and that does not bug me at all in the slightest. In fact, I advocate for it. My next pick is the redemption movie of the year. I'm going to use Michael Rosen to kind of describe this series. If Scream 1 and 2 are tinned peach syrup, what a drink. Scream 3 is where he lifts the jug and expects peach syrup again, but ends up tasting cooking oil. Scream 3 sucks, people. That's just not debatable. Scream 4 is just, again, to do a good impression of Mr. Rosen himself, it's all right. It's not a bad movie, but for Wes Craven's final entry in this series, it could be so much better than what it actually is. Scream 5 for me is the best Scream movie since the second one. It has all of the meta humor down to a T, but never forgetting that this is a horror movie, that you're going to show the kills, that it's going to be bloody and violent, but still entertaining. The way they integrate the new characters in with Sydney, Dewey, and Gale is great. I never once really felt that one was overshadowing the other, really, but it is kind of passing the torch at the same time. It's very tasteful, and I never once thought that Courtney Cox would get arguably the best kill in a Scream movie, but
right?
2022 is a weird fucking year. So, you know what? I'm going to allow this. My next pick will be Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. This was the funniest comedy I have seen in years. A lot of people could take arguably the best joke in the movie. Like, let's just say this was put in lesser hands. And Mike, if you've seen this movie, you know which one I'm referring to.
Yes.
In lesser hands, this could be extremely preachy, in bad taste, and just come off as tone deaf. Mike Judge is not one of those writers. He knew how to handle current subject matter in a way that was clever, funny, and not just something that's just edgy to be edgy sake, even though Beavis and Butthead are the definition of edgy to be edgy sake for the 90s, and he does an honestly pretty genius job of bringing them from the late 90s into the 2020s. So
I have said for years that that Mike Judge is the best writer / director of smart, dumb comedy.
Yeah, exactly. And
I agree with that.
since Beavis and Butthead has new episodes coming out on Paramount Plus, this is the perfect way to bring these characters back without it just being like an hour and a half long episode of the show. So my next number 5 pick. This one I can only really describe as if Men, the movie that is from Alex Garland, if the movie Men did not suck, and that is Watcher. So if you have not heard of Watcher on Shudder, I heavily recommend that you go watch this psychological horror thriller. It is great to see Micah Monroe be back in a horror movie again, and she's fantastic in this. You really feel for her character and the intense stress of her being watched by a guy across from her in a separate apartment building. You would think that would be something that comes off as insanely boring, but the director actually manages to make the social commentary and the tension work simultaneously at the same time. And it's just an insanely well done gem on Shudder that I cannot recommend enough. My number 4 pick will be Dragon Ball Superhero. And this, I would say, belongs up there with Dragon Ball Z, the first Broly movie, as one of the best Dragon Ball movies. The action was punchy and the animation was really well done, and it's just great to see Piccolo and Gohan actually get to do something and not just be the butt of jokes for Goku and Vegeta again. And man, this was just one of those theater experiences that it was like, it kind of takes you back to watching Saturday morning cartoons as a kid. And the best thing about it is that you can know nothing about Dragon Ball Z and still get what's going on. It's very newcomer friendly, which is what I loved about it.
Agreed on that point.
My number 3 pick is going to be a tie. So it's a cheat, but it's also not, because I really do think that this is the best possible double feature that you can watch in 2022. And it is the best slasher movie of slasher movies of 2022, and that is X and Pearl. I have had a bit of a choppy track record with Ty West, but this is the movie that won me over with him. X was the best possible combination of, again, everybody uses this comparison, Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Friday the 13th. It's insanely gory, but it also has a lot to say about aging and looks and fame, and that perfectly translates into Pearl as well, where it feels like Wizard of Oz meets Friday the 13th, which is something you never in a million years would have thought. But who would have thought a horror movie about porn didn't need to be a disgusting, repugnant piece of garbage, edgelord trash in order to be good? And the acting is absolutely fantastic. Mia Goth, if the Oscars did not snub horror movies on the frequent, deserves a Best Actress nod, especially for her monologue towards the end of Pearl. That is Oscar-worthy acting. Yet again, the Academy hates horror. So my number 2 picks, my number 2 and my number 1, excuse me. Number 2 is one I am mad that it is streaming services only, and that's going to be Prey. I actually watched the first 3 Predator movies, I want to say about like a year and a half before this came out. And I outright have no interest or desire to see The Predator from 2018. This is a proper Predator movie. Introduces the character into a new setting, does it in a way that's actually interesting, gives us characters to actually root for. And I really do need to rewatch this movie just so I can watch it with the Comanche. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, the different language that it's in, because I think that gives it a fresh new aspect of, rather than just watching these characters speak in English, actually gives it a different feel to it. And who would have thought that the Predator in the 1700s fighting the French would have resulted in one of the best action scenes in the past year. Like, this would have been something that I thought would have gone down insanely well in a theater, but unfortunately Disney decided not to be smart and only put this on Disney Plus. Even though they put my number one pick in theaters, and they put the admittedly really good new Hellraiser movie on Hulu, and in my case up here in Canada, put it on Paramount Plus. So, my number one pick, and Mike, you were alluding to this earlier, is going to be Barbarian. I am so happy I only saw maybe bits of the trailer, maybe just the poster, and I went into it as blind as you could get. And this was one of the funnest horror theater experiences I had, alongside Terrifier 2 being in an indie theater, seeing it opening night. This was, without spoiling it for everybody listening, if you want surprise after surprise once our main character walks into this basement, prepare for the best roller coaster ride of the year. It's an insanely gory movie that isn't predictable. Its characters, not once did I ever think that their decision was, it wouldn't be decisions I'd necessarily make in that situation. I wouldn't go down into a creepy basement like that. But you can understand why that decision was made. It doesn't, treat the audience like it's dumb, but at the same time, it gives you that, oh my God, why are you going in there? That is the dumbest decision you could make. But it works in its own weird way. And who would have thought that Justin Long would be the most reprehensible human being, and then another character somehow comes into the situation and just tops him? And I am extremely mad that Disney has not released this movie on Blu-ray at all.
That or The Empty Man.
Yeah, that is one. Fear Street 2. Throw that into the mix, selling the rights to that off to Netflix. Disney's decisions with releasing certain movies in theaters and releasing it on Disney Plus has very much annoyed me this year. And I really wish that I could go pick up Barbarian in 4K, because this would be a more than worthy addition to my collection. Just, if you have Disney Plus, I cannot recommend this movie. I cannot recommend this movie enough to you. It's one of the best horror movies I've seen in a theater in a long time. And just go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it as blind as you can be, as I did, because you will have a blast with this thing.
Oh, yeah. Barbarian is unfortunately not anywhere near my top 10, but it's again one of those movies that I have just been like sending people to go see without any like prior knowledge. Just go enjoy one of the most insane horror movies I've seen in like the past few years. Some other titles I just want to kind of throw out there. Elvis. Elvis is another one of those maximalist movies that a lot of people clearly have enjoyed since it was pretty successful at the box office. But the reason to see this movie is Austin Butler's performance. And of course, Baz Luhrmann being Baz Luhrmann, directing like a madman. But Austin Butler, I think, gives one of the year's best performances. And he's not just doing an impression of the titular protagonist, but he's actually, like, he's not just doing an impression, he's actually like bringing humanity to the king of rock and roll. Yes, it is on a bit on the long side, but it's just one of those. It's how you do a biopic the right way, by injecting life of the movie with the right energy of its subject matter. So yeah, definitely check out Elvis. Another one that is a lot more polarizing than I thought would be Babylon. Did anyone else here see the movie besides me?
I have seen it twice now, and it hasn't left my brain, frankly. I cannot stop thinking. And I understand why it is divisive, but it's just one of those movies that it just hit me right where I think I needed it to. It just, like a ton of bricks, it just hit me, and I needed it so much. I'm pretty obsessed right now.
I want to try to see it again. I want to see it again, only because kind of like what you said. Like, I get why it's polarizing, but at the same time, it's just so wild, and I know why it's the kind of movie that Damien Chazelle would want to direct, but just the fact that he had this in him is just kind of impressive. I think the best way I can describe it is Babylon has the same energy of how Judd Hirsch describes like the entertainment business in The Fabelmans. Like, this is pretty much an entire movie of that scene. It's just very chaotic, and I loved it.
And real quick, I want to say that I think it works very well as kind of a weird companion piece to La La Land. It's almost like an inversion of the plot, and I think even it sort of has a weird kind of reflective commentary on some of the complaints that were lobbied against La La Land.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I think even the music, the themes, Me and Sebastian, and the theme of Manny and Nelly are like, to quote George Lucas, they rhyme. And I think there's just something there's something very interesting about that to me. And that's kind of the way I've been looking at it. And I think it really like adds a lot when you consider that in mind.
Oh yeah. Tyler, I don't think you brought up your best movies yet.
Well, funnily enough, most of them already got name dropped. I love the living hell out of the Pinocchio good version this year. I really actually for horror films, I thought the Black Phone was actually the best one I saw this year, hands down. I liked Prey quite a bit. I thought the historical setting and the use of the Predator was top notch, best since the original one. Pretty much the only one I haven't mentioned, but I guess no one else mentioned before, is I really like The Northman. Oh boy. Bobby Eggers is my boy now. He's 3 for 3. This man
whatever he makes, I will watch it to the ends of the earth. I do not care what language it's in, what era it's in, who's in it. I see that name and go, oh, it's going to be good and actually accurate to the historical period he's trying to talk about. And Vikings is actually maybe one of the hardest topics to get right. And he actually managed to thread that needle while also not quite being a historical story. It's a adaptation of a famous Norse story that kind of influenced the everyone's favorite Shakespeare play.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, once someone's explained that to you, you can definitely see the edges of what will eventually become Hamlet. But it's overall just a really great version of a early Middle Ages story, and he got Vikings right. I can't believe it. This is not like some sort of terrible 1950s film version like The Vikings with Kirk Douglas. It's not too needlessly gritty, but it's also not too cleaned up either. It's the perfect world of what I would want this sort of movie to be, which is, you can definitely tell this is a different culture that is kind of unrelatable, but there's human aspects that peek through now and then that make it work well enough. And it's a movie that ends with two dudes fighting naked in a volcano. And how can you not love that? I'm not into guys, but I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, Northman's great.
I would love if theaters did a double feature of The Northman and The Green Knight. I know they do have their differences, but both of them I thought were just really good examples of like modern sort I guess like modern high fantasy, but in a more, I guess, realistic fashion, even though one is based on Arthurian legends.
Well, funnily enough, there's a through line here because Ralph Ineson's in both.
Oh, I didn't realize
He's the boat captain at the end that helps Skarsgård.
Wow.
Yeah, that's another guy where it's like he just shows up. I love him. He's great as a headless Green Knight. He's great as like a early Middle Ages English boat captain. He's good as a 1600s era Puritan. And he is the best depiction of the pirate Charles Vane that I will ever see in my life in the fourth Assassin's Creed game. So, Ralph Ineson, another guy. He shows up, I'm going to be happy.
Nice. We are starting to wind things down, but before we do, does anyone else have any sort of rapid fire titles they want to get out there?
I have a few that I would just like to do. I'm going to try to make it as brief as I can. So I'll just start with some of the ones that were already mentioned that are in my top 10, no particular order. Nope was already mentioned. That really just blew me away. And that does really, really get better the more and more you watch it. And as always, fuck you, Logan Paul. Shut up. You're stupid. And next one I would like to say is Scream 5, as mentioned. That had a really huge impact on me. I saw that 5 times in theaters because that was a movie that I really, really needed this year. I love all of the Scream movies for different reasons. And this one was just one that I'm so happy exists. Pearl. That is my number 1 movie of the year, ultimately. And it really just... there was something about it that I found so beautiful and weirdly, despite all the carnage, there was just something so human about it that I feel was really aided by Mia Goth's performance. Some more rapid fire just to wrap this up. I love Tar, Cate Blanchett, amazing. Everything Everywhere All at Once, also loved. Give Michelle Yeoh the Oscar.
Yes.
I'm for her. Sorry, Blanchett. Love you. You're amazing in Tar, but Michelle Yeoh. Triangle of Sadness, I loved so much. And I think it just made me laugh so hysterically. Charlie Dean will be missed. She gave a great performance in that film. Also, Dolly DeLeon, give her an Oscar nomination as well. She is brilliant in it. Glass Onion was even better, in my opinion, than Knives Out, and I love Knives Out.
Same.
But I just love Glass Onion even more. And I also want to mention Bodies, 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 because I think that time will ultimately make that film the modern day equivalent of Heathers. It just nails a lot of the way that I think modern that Gen Z will talk. And just a paraphrase that I will use is that someone saying, if Scream is all about performative apathy, then Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is about performative empathy, and also how people will use words that they don't really care about just because they want to come across a certain way. And final thing I will mention, I am cheating, it's a TV show, but I don't care because it's great. The White Lotus season 2, one of the best shows of TV this year. Do not at me. I am right. I loved season 1, and I wasn't feeling season 2 at first, but oh my God, by the time it got going, I was so in it. Watch it. Watch it right now. It's fantastic. Anyway, boom, 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 boom. Whoever wants the floor, you have it.
Jacob, I'll let you close this one out with your rapid fires.
I don't have any rapid fires per se, but it's like I feel I don't really have any. Like I haven't really had time to compile my rapid fires, but some movies that actually there are some. Tar, Kate Blanchett's amazing. Banshees of Inisherin, it's the most Irish movie I've ever seen, and I've seen Tom Moore's fantasy trilogy. Violent Night was a hell of a lot of fun. It was Nope. Some of the best sound design and cinematography I've seen all year. Top Gun Maverick. It's just pure blockbuster cinema. It's like pure, sincere, tense, incredibly immersive. It truly does earn its spot among the best blockbusters of recent memory. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, absolutely adorable, poignant, and sad. Avatar: The Way of Water, a great old-fashioned epic with familiar, like the family unit is so believable. The Zoe Saldana gives the best performance, like at the beginning of the third act. There's just so many, like I said before, this was a very rewarding overall year in terms of movies that I enjoyed. So yeah, that's really all I have left to say.
And yeah, that concludes our overview of 2022. Gotta say, this one was a lot of fun. I'm glad we all got to share our last words on the year that was. Before we get out of here, Josh, first of all, thank you for joining us after such a long absence. Where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at JSH Lozano, where I started posting infrequently now because I've been busy, but you can occasionally see me giving the stupidest advice or just ragging on certain filmmakers that may or may not have done questionable things to their niece, or you could see me also simping for the latest Florence Pugh performance or anything like that. You can also find me on YouTube at JoshBoy64, where I promise this is the year and there will be videos this year. I swear to God. Kingdom Hearts is still delayed, but
I can relate to that feeling a lot.
it's par for the course at this point. Kingdom Hearts will always be delayed. And then you can find me on Facebook in the Renegade Pop Culture Facebook group.
And Hayden, where can everyone find you?
With all due respect, and I love all of you, do not try to follow me. You will not find me anywhere. So I'm a ghost. Ooh.
And Tyler, where can everyone find you?
You can follow me at BioWD on Twitter and Mastodon, where I'm either talking about some random thing with a historian or talking about trans issues with a couple friends. I'm still trying to put up a freaking YouTube channel and put out a video, so I could definitely relate with Josh right there. Hopefully that'll come out this year. I think.
Yeah, I believe in you.
Yep, thank you. That's about it.
And Jacob, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Jacob Krehbiel, Krehbiel. I'm also part of the Renegade Pop Culture Facebook group. But just a heads up, everybody, the next free-for-all will in fact be my last one, at least for the foreseeable future. I have had amazing job opportunities lately, and I have to laser focus on those. So, yeah, I look forward to the last free-for-all, everybody. It's been a fun 3 years.
And Nick, where can everyone find you?
Super Saiyan Death Metal God on Instagram. You can follow me and binge like my posts. I mainly post metal album covers, mainly stuff that I'm actually listening to at that minute. Either that, horror movies, whatever video game I'll be playing at that time, just whatever I'm in the mood for, or just my general collection. I also mod for Catherine Isabel. She is the actress from Ginger Snaps, and because we're recording this on Friday the 13th, she was also criminally underused in Freddy vs. Jason. So go follow her on Twitch, and yeah, we'll gift you subs in the chat whenever she decides to stream again, because she isn't right now.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Hive at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. We're also on YouTube, on Podchaser, on the Banana Meter. Listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And last but not least, everything can be found at RenegadePopCulture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Marquee. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.